Hey everybody, Seth Campbell here with the new Segue Says podcast. Well, this week we're going to feature two songs that share a very distinctive rhythm. And the two songs are Misunderstanding by Genesis and Hold the Line by Toto. Now that I've mentioned Hold the Line, you probably know what rhythm we're talking about. It's a triplet rhythm with very heavy backbeats, so sort of a 6/8. Very distinctive rhythm, and there are very few songs that utilize it as prominently as these two. So both these songs were very successful in themselves. It was one of the first mainstream singles that Genesis was able to capitalize on. It was on the same album as Turn It On Again, which of course was the big hit. It was the Duke album. But that's one that really launched them into the mainstream consciousness. Hold the Line was, of course, Toto's first big hit right off their first record. And it's what launched them into prominence right away. And it's another one of the songs that's been on the radio a lot, so even if, and still is, so even if you weren't around back in the day, you already know this song. So, I will need to make a brief caveat here and say that I'm playing Hold the Line in D minor instead of F sharp minor. And I've been playing it in D minor for about a year now, purely because I don't have the vocal range of Bobby Kimball, the original singer, Joseph Williams, their current singer, and of course definitely not Jenny Douglas, who has sung it several times with them in the interim. So this segue is only going to work unless you come up with something really bizarre. This segue is only going to work if you're playing this in D minor, because Misunderstanding is also in D minor. Alternatively, if you do have the vocal range of a Bobby Kimball or a Joseph Williams or a Jenny Douglas, then you could bring Misunderstanding up to F sharp minor. But I'm going to leave that to you because I've got enough I have to take care of as it is. So this is the segue the way I play it, which is both songs in D minor, both sharing the same rhythm. Now, Misunderstanding, some people think it's a Phil Collins solo, and as a matter of fact, this is one of the songs that he wrote solo and brought to the band Genesis, and they put it on their album. With Phil sing. I mean, Phil was an integral member of Genesis, and usually they wrote together, but this is one he wrote solo. And it has this very distinctive riff. I want to call it a chorus, but that would make the form of the song a double extended chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus. Which is very bizarre. Only other song I can think of off the top of my head that does something like that is Not the Only One by Bonnie Raitt. So I don't know if you'd call it a chorus, because it's a very rare form. But this is the main body of the song. There must be some misunderstanding. There must be some kind of mistake. I waited in the rain for hours, and you were late. So that's the main line there, and it's a walk up, D minor, C over E, F, A minor, G, tension 11 here. And so that establishes, because of this B that we're in Dorian scale for my musical friends, and I'll get back to that in a minute because that will become important once we're doing the segue. But if you don't get that now, don't worry about it. And so, Hold the Line, of course, you already know. The original key, and this is what everyone knows about on the radio, is when you hear... I haven't played it in that key for a long time, so I'm screwing it up. But I've brought it down to D minor because I can sing it much better in this range. It's not in the way that you hold me. It's not in the way you say you care. It's not in the way you've been treating my friends. It's not in the way that you stayed till the end. It's not in the way you look, all the things that you say that you'll do. Hold the line. Love isn't always on time. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold the line. Love isn't always on time. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Of course you know it. One of the most famous rock grooves of all time. So, if you're listening to the rhythmic subdivisions, particularly of the right hand, you can already hear where the similarity is. It's da 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 da. It's all in groups of 3. It's tough to do that while snapping. I've never actually tried that before. But it's the same thing for Misunderstanding. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 the whole time. So that's the driving force behind both of these songs, is these triplets. And every part of the song you subdivide, it's triplets, and that makes this different from, you know, what would be a normal swing song, just 1 and 2 and 3, because that middle part of the triplet is emphasized. So it'd really be different if it was just, you know. If it was swing, that's what it would be. But we have these 2 grooves, and like I said, while these songs are in the same key, in the same rhythm, well, they're in the same key for our purposes, there's one crucial difference, and that's that Misunderstanding is in D Dorian. And for my less musical friends, that means this is the scale. You have this B natural in there, the raised 6th, the natural 6th. Whereas a regular D minor would have a B flat. D Aeolian, as we fancy music types like to call it. And of course, the B flat chord is in the usual D minor, and it's a very prominent chord in Hold the Line. So the B flat is really, the B flat and then the G minor are the really distinctive chords of an Aeolian D minor, a regular D minor. But in a D Dorian minor, one of the characteristic chords is G major, and as luck would have it, that's where the phrase comes to rest in Misunderstanding. And so it's all about the B versus the B flat, 2 very different chords. So we have to find a way to switch from one to the other seamlessly while these grooves are both emphasizing them so strongly. And it's difficult to do that in a way that isn't awkward. So I guess the best way to do it, in my opinion the best way to do it, is to take advantage of that awkwardness and get people feeling, wait, this can't possibly be right, until they figure out what exactly I'm going for. And the way I do that is I take these 2 repeating phrases that are very crucial to songs, and I alternate them, go back and forth, and like that. But for the Hold the Line one, rather than switch to the, because this obviously is much more sparse than Misunderstanding. The chords are up high, the bass notes are low, and there's not a lot in the middle, whereas Misunderstanding is all in the middle. You'd want to play the Hold the Line riff the same way as Misunderstanding, so you're not jumping back and forth between sparse and not sparse. So that would sound like... So then, if you're going to alternate them, you do it like this. This is coming out of the last, just sort of riffing at the end of Misunderstanding. There must be long you want. You could improvise with the right hand. I shouldn't try to talk while doing this, I guess, but I'm going to anyway. And then whenever you're ready to do it for the last time and fully switch to hold the line, and sometimes it takes up until here for the people in the audience to figure out what it was I've been doing this whole time. It's not in the way that you hold me. It's not in the way you say you care. And there you go. Now, because these songs intertwine more in the segue, usually that there are usually a few where it's either ambiguous because the sections are very similar, or they change suddenly. They usually don't go that obviously back and forth. I like to keep this a one-way segue, especially because, as I mentioned, you're changing from the Dorian to the Aeolian minor scales. So those do have a significant effect on the mood. And so I think it's best to do Misunderstanding then, however long a jam section you want in which you're switching back and forth, and then close with Hold the Line. And that's the way I like to play this one. And it's a fairly recent invention, and usually if I'm having trouble getting people's attention at the piano bar, if it's a slow night, people aren't that interested in the music, I do this one. This one will hook the audience, because it'll really confuse the hell out of them for a few minutes, however long you want to do the jam, and then as soon as you break to the... suddenly they all get it. And that's sort of a moment of unity you have with the audience. You know, they're like, oh, and you just look at them and you're like... And that's, once again, why I do these. Because it's a lot of fun, creates interesting reactions, and it's really cool as a mental exercise, because I had these two songs, and I knew I wanted to do a segue between them, because they had a very similar groove, and like I said, I'd already been playing Hold the Line in D minor. And I swear I came up with this before I saw the interview with the band members of Genesis about the Duke album, and Phil Collins saying, of course, the beat was incredibly popular at the time because it was the same groove as Hold the Line by Toto. He calls them Toto. But so I promise I came up with this idea before that. So I knew I had these two songs. It's like, okay, it's the same groove and the same key because I play Hold the Line down. So how can I make this work? Because these scales just don't match up. And so I spent a long time trying to just see if I could use other sections, but the verse of Misunderstanding is, it's a very different, it's different tonal center entirely, so I couldn't use that, couldn't really use the verse to Hold the Line, and so there was no way around the awkwardness. And usually I try to make these perfectly seamless, but I thought this time, okay, if I can't get around the awkwardness, let's see if I can make it work to my advantage. And when you're coming up with segues, in case you out there are ever coming up with your own, which I really encourage you to do, it's a great exercise mentally to try to make any existing awkwardness work for you if you can't get around it. Just embrace the strangeness of what you're doing, because sometimes that's where the best results come in. So thank you so much for watching as always. Hope you'll have a great week. I will see you next time.